All right, greetings, world. I hope all those are well. All right, we're just gonna do something simple, nice and light today. Just talk a little bit. Okay, so today is Thursday, June 2nd, 2022. Today is Thursday, and Thursday is the day of Jupiter. So this is the planet of abundance and expansion. All right. Today is also a number 5 day, so that's a day of adventure. So for me, I'm going to take this opportunity today to step out of my comfort zone and do a little something adventurous and different. All right. So I'm going to talk mostly about trusting oneself. Okay. So as I'm going through this spiritual journey and I'm going through life, I'm trying to figure out the best way to get myself to prosperity, the best way to make sure that my legacy is fulfilled. So yesterday, I decided to visit my mother, at the gravesite that she's at. So I went to the cemetery yesterday. And for some reason, something told me to go to the cemetery, right? Something was like, you know what? Just walk through the cemetery, say hi. So I go over to where my mother is buried, and the groundskeeper is cutting the grass, right? So it's grass everywhere, it's not really somewhere I want to sit, because I kind of sit on my mother's grave and I talk to her, try and soak up the grass and the dirt and the energy, because that's all her energy still there. So I try and soak it up. But I couldn't sit down because he cut the grass yesterday. So I'm like, man. So I'm like, all right, so I'm just gonna walk. And I'm a little weird in a sense, because I am I'm a Pisces. So I deal in the spiritual world and I deal in necromancy. I'm not saying I play with the dead, but anything with that other side, it tends to draw me to it. So I'm just walking through the cemetery, I'm just looking at different names, looking, at that type of stuff, just trying to waste time before my train is coming for me to go. So as I walk out the cemetery, I'm walking down the street, and I notice one of my childhood friends, her older brother, was walking down the street, walking with his dog, walking with a pit bull, right? So walking with a pit bull. So I'm like, why is he walking in this random place? Because it's where my mom's buried. It's nowhere near where we grew up. We grew up in South, central South Jersey. And I'm up North Jersey where my mom's buried, Hillside, Newark, Elizabeth area. So I'm like, why the hell am I seeing this guy? So at first, I wasn't going to say anything, because me, I'm more of an introvert sometimes, especially when I'm going through things and my life isn't quite unquote perfect at the moment. I don't want to see nobody, so I'm just gonna completely ignore you. Even if you see me, I'm just gonna kind of deviate and try and get out the situation. But I'm like, no, let me speak, because me and his sister, we were very close. We're very close, and I do genuinely still have love for her in my heart. That shit will never change. Me and her have been through some of the roughest times together, and she was always there to make me smile and keep me out of those levels of depression, and I for her as well, to keep her out those dark levels of depression, right? So I'm like, I say his name, and I'm like, hey, what you doing out here? And he's looking at me. He's like, who are you? And I'm like, you don't remember me? I'm like, I'm your sister's one of her friends from, childhood. We went to middle school together, we went to high school together, I used to kick it in your backyard, we, whatever. So I tell him who I am, and he automatically knew me. You get what I'm saying? It wasn't one of those no, he automatically knew me. So he's like, hey, what are you doing here? I'm like, yeah, I'm visiting my mom. I was like, she's buried here. I was like, she passed away a couple years ago, so I tend to visit her when I'm up here. That's how I get my messages, right? I go visit my mom, I visit my grandmom, and I stay in those cities that they're at, so that I can get whatever it is that I need, I need to get that message, that download. So he's like, oh, well, you know what? Let me walk with you. He's like, I'll walk with you to the grave, to pay our respects, this, that, and the third. I'm like, well, I actually just left from it, because, like I said, the situation in the cemetery. So I'm like, I'm actually headed home. I'm like, I'm going to the train station, this, that, and the third. It's like, oh, you know what? Let me put this dog away, because he was walking the dog at the particular time. And he's like, you know what? Let me put this dog away, and I'll give you a ride to the train station. So I'm like, all right, fair enough. Even though I tend to not want to accept things, and that is one of my negative traits. That when you want to help me, I tend to be like, no, it's okay, I'm good, I'm fine, no thank you, even though I really do need the help, right? So I'm like, you know what, I'm gonna take this ride, because it's hot, you get me, I'm thirsty, I've been walking all this time, it'd be nice to sit down, right? So I'm like, okay, so I'm like, I'm gonna take it. So we're talking or whatever, and when I knew him, that was just her wild older brother, right? Because she has 2 older brothers, right? So it's like, that's just her wild older brother, when he was in the middle of finding his way, back when we were young, right? So he was finding his way or whatever, and now he's found his way. So we're talking, he's telling me all about the stuff that he was able to execute and accomplish, right, within these, let's say, 10 years. So I'm like, wow, that's really amazing. Like, I'm looking at it, I'm like, yeah, you kind of got your stuff together right there, like, I'm proud in a sense. So I go on to say, trust in oneself. Had I not listened, went to the cemetery, deviated from the cemetery, meaning I was deserted, I had to go because of the situation, I would have never crossed paths with him. Now, us not crossing paths, because it wasn't meant for us to cross paths. He was like on a back block walking his dog. No one knows why he decided to come this particular way. He's not really familiar with the neighborhood, but he just happened to end up over here by the cemetery. So my mother led him to me, and my mother led me to him, okay? So that we could be able to connect for many reasons. Because now finding out more about him and what he does, it is perfect networking for me trying to get myself more out there with the marketing and advertising for the things that I'm trying to execute and facilitate in my life, right? So it actually worked out perfectly, or divinely, as you would want to say it, for us to cross paths with each other, me to step out of my comfort zone and actually, receive what I'm seeking. Because I ask for things all the time, and then when they come to me, I'm like, oh no, it's okay, because I didn't do it. Not understanding that, you're going to be sent all these people to help you facilitate things. It's not just going to be you, because it's going to take, a whole army, or it's going to take, a whole team of people putting their collective minds together and accomplishing something. And all I could think about sitting with him was when we were teenagers, or even in our early 20s, when we were just starting off trying to figure out this life. We would kick it in their backyard, smoking, chilling, doing whatever it is that we're doing, but we were always bouncing ideas off each other, consistently bouncing out ideas. And it's amazing to see how he was able to actually execute and implement those ideas, because me, his sister, and his younger brother, we always have these freaking brilliant ideas, right? Because they did too. Like, these 3 children, or these 3 beings, if they only knew how powerful they were, because they think of stuff and a lot of it comes to fruition, and most and it was just a thought for us. We were just having fun thinking about stuff, and a lot of it's come to fruition. So there is some level of power there, right? So it just reminded me, and it was beautiful It was beautiful, and it also gave me the assurance that I needed to know that everything is going to be just fine, and that nothing is the end all be all, you know. And as much as I have to live with the fact that, you know, my mom is no longer here in the physical, my grandmother is no longer here in the physical, two of the most influential women on my life, right, or two of the most important people in my life are no longer here with me in the physical. I'm going through all these different things, and I just want to pick up the phone and call my mother and be like, Ma, I learned this, I learned that. You were right, putting it all together, right? But she shows herself to me all the time. She reveals herself to me in every action that I take when I'm listening to what I was taught, as, you know, my upbringing, listening to those little things that her and my grandmother instilled in me from a young child. And then I get to see it happen, you know. I get to see it come together. And then just when everything seems like it's down and out and all the chips are down, my plate runneth over. Like, it's always abundance for me. So I figured I would share this on an abundance day. The sun done came out now as I'm talking, you know, because it was a bit cloudy. But now the sun has come out. So maybe I was meant to do this and speak this. But, you know, just expansion, just abundance. One has to believe that one is worthy. One has to know that it is possible for you to achieve. Because it all starts with self. And the moment I start doubting myself, and the moment I start looking to others for validation, is when things don't happen for me. But when I'm like, you know what, forget it. All right, you can't help me, whatever, I'm gonna figure it out. Oh well, you can't encourage me. All right, I'm gonna figure it out. If I gotta walk here, oh well, I'm gonna walk here. You get me? If I have to run there, I'm gonna run there. And 9 times out of 10, I don't never have to really walk. People come, they give me rides. Like, everything is sweet. For the most part, as long as I'm doing the work, as long as I'm consistently like, you know what, whatever, I'm gonna give it 100%. I walk by faith, like, all the time, right? I take those same principles that, you know, that you take from the church and from the religious aspect, the order of it, and I apply it to my regular life. I'm like, yeah, because, like, that's the whole point of being spiritual, is it not? It's believing in the unseen. It's knowing your magic and your power. And I got lots of it. So I use it to my discretion. But I just wanted to have a moment of gratitude to the universe, to take this opportunity to spread abundance and expansion. Because life is beauty. And you just got to see it.